Recording in progress.
Good morning and welcome to this week's Weber County Commission meeting. We've got more than normal here in the Commission chambers. We're glad to have you here, and we welcome those of you online or those of you who would be online at another time. Today is Tuesday the 19th of November. It's 10 o'clock. Our agenda will proceed as follows. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be given by our Economic Development Director, Ms. Stephanie Russell. The invocation will be followed by the Assistant Director, Bill Ross of Community Development. And then our thought of the day will be by Commissioner Gage Harris Froer, and we'll go to that point.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before this commission meeting, we're grateful, especially during this season of Thanksgiving, for all the many blessings we have, for this wonderful nation we're able to live in, and also this wonderful county. We are grateful for all the opportunities and things that are here to help us thrive in our lives. And Heavenly Father, today as we meet in this commission meeting, we pray that Thou might be with the commissioners and all those who will be presenting, and part of this, that all the things that take place here will be in accordance to the laws and ordinances and approving of Thy will. We indeed love Thee very much. We're so thankful for all those who serve and protect us throughout not only this county but throughout the nation and the world, especially our law enforcement and our first responders, and pray that Thou might continue to bless and keep them safe as they protect and serve us here in our communities. We pray, Heavenly Father, for all those that so diligently work hard in this county, that they'll have good health and strength and be able to accomplish those things that will help strengthen our community and be a benefit to the citizens that live herein. We ask and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Well, you know, Commissioners, we talk a great deal about the fantastic venues that we offer here in Weber County and the opportunities that we give the public to go out and recreate and take advantage of Weber County facilities. Well, I just wanted to let you know that last Friday afternoon and Friday evening, two great events took place in Weber County at our venues. The first was with the ice sheet, and myself and my wife went up and looked at able to view some future potential Olympic skaters at our ice sheet in Weber County. There wasn't a lot of people when we were there, but it was great to see the facility in its prime condition and the opportunity that those young people come from. Basically, it was the West Coast. I think it was called the Pacific Finals. See them perform. Well, we didn't stop there. Then we went to the Golden Spike Arena that evening and watched the rodeo. And that was fairly well attended. But again, the same opportunity, a lot of young people, a lot of locals that had the opportunity to do what a lot of our history in Weber County shows, which is horse and rodeo. So I just want to let you know, I didn't mean to step on your portfolio, Chair Harvey, but it was a great opportunity to see actually firsthand what we offer here in Weber County. And I would hope that other people, let's not forget about the Fury's Egyptian and all the other events coming up very shortly because of the holiday season, and encourage people to get out and enjoy what we have here in Weber County. You don't have to drive to Salt Lake to have a prime evening. We've got good restaurants here. Stick around Weber County, spend your money, and anyway, it's a great opportunity to be able to say, enjoy Weber County.
Thank you, Commissioner. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. We appreciate they're thriving. Our facilities here are thriving, and they're doing very well under the direction of Marty Smith and Todd Ferrario and the teams that will lead those. We appreciate that very much. Thank
Absolutely.
you. The part of our agenda now that items related to the agenda in public comment. Are there any here in the room that would like to speak, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and you use those only to pertain to the agenda. Also, if you'll state your name and where you're from. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm here to speak to the fact that you are the Board of Canvassers and you're going to be certifying today.
Sorry, hold on. Let's go back. If you'll identify yourself in the city where you live. Thank you for the record. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Jennifer, and I'm from Ogden. And it's a pleasure to be here today to see all of you. And I just want to speak briefly about some issues related to the election that you're about to certify. And I'm going to start with the fact that just an hour ago, the county website for the ballot process has not changed since Sunday. And it declared that there are about 1,000 and I believe 53 ballots that were in process that had not been cured or some other issue. Which means that there's a bit of a delay with the whole counting process. And the machines are supposed to make everything efficient and streamline, and these are some of the promises that were given when we put in the machines, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because here it is 2 weeks later, and there's still a question about all of the ballots being cured, not being cured, being counted, whatever. Whereas when we had paper ballots, we could get it all done in one night. Now, I know that a lot of people speak to the fact that it's a convenience that the machines offer us, but it's really not a convenience because we don't have results in a timely manner. And there's still questions about the security of the machines themselves. And myself, I've investigated, or I've tried to investigate some of the security concerns regarding the machines, but I can only get so far just based on the fact that there's a proprietary considerations to who can look at the machines and who cannot. And so there's an area that the people are not allowed to see. We're not allowed to investigate. And so there's still some questions with the security of the machines. But I just want to say that going back to paper ballots, and allowing people to vote in their precincts on the day of elections with their ID is actually the most convenient and most secure process available to the citizens. And the fact that as of this morning, there were, the website said there were still over $1,000 ballots that had not been processed. Now, I'm sure that Ricky has taken care of this. I don't question the way that he's handling things in there, but I don't think that it's, the machines have lived up to their promises, which is to process ballots in a timely and efficient manner. And so I would just like to, for you to consider the possibility of going back to paper ballots and allowing the people to vote in the precincts. And other countries like Argentina, France, and others have been able to use these methods, which are time-honored, and have completed the task in one night. And so there's no issue or no reason why we can't do the same ourselves. And of course, whenever we utilize a new technology for the sake of convenience, there's always going to be trade-offs. And for me personally, as a member of this country and of this county, I don't feel that the trade-offs that were given justify the questions, the unanswered questions. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address us? Is there anyone online? Stacy, Shelley, anyone online? Thank you. Okay, let's continue on. Perfect. Our item F are the consent items. And under consent items, Ricky, when I turn the time over to you, if you wouldn't mind taking another brief moment to editorialize or to respond to Jennifer's comments, that'd be great. Out of respect for her comments, thank you. Item F on our agenda are the consent items. Item number 1 is a request for approval of the warrants 103 through 631 through and including 103 670 and 47 737 through and including 47,856 in the amount of $1,697,143.82. Item 2 is a request for approval of the purchase orders in the amount of $151,201.18. Item 3 is the summary of warrants and purchase orders. And then also number 4 is a request for approval of the ACH payments to Zions Bank in the amount of $259.69. We'll go to that point. Mr. Ricky Hatch. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 12 purchase orders this week for $151,000. Just over a third of that amount, or $55,000, is for the transfer station to purchase new truck scales as well as perform equipment maintenance. 35% or $53,000 is for the garage that is related to the upfitting of sheriff's vehicles. 22% or $31,000 is for IT to purchase network switches. As far as checks, we issued 160 warrants this week for $1.7 million. 43% or $732,000 were ARPA distributions to Wolf Creek Water and Sewer, the United Way, and Powder Mountain Water and Sewer. 23% or $386,000 is for the transfer station, and that is a refund of Hooper City overpayment to the transfer station, and then the replacement of scales. 9% or $146,000 is for the library, and that went towards website services, books and materials, and software maintenance. 8% or $132,000 was for flood control materials. Regarding Ms. Pennington's comments, which I appreciate her coming and being interested in the elections, Weber County has used technology to count our ballots for about 70 years. Since the 1960s is when the county first started using equipment to scan ballots. I totally agree with her sentiment that we cannot and should not use equipment simply for convenience, and that we should be very wary and careful anytime we do use equipment. In my mind, equipment doesn't get tired. Equipment doesn't have bad days or good days generally. Sometimes it does. But
Doesn't have bias either, does it?
Correct. And so equipment is an excellent, machines are excellent counters, but you can't trust them. You have to audit, and that's what we do with our equipment. Every ballot that is scanned through a piece of equipment that has been audited in public meetings. It's been certified, and it's audited before it processes a single ballot, and then before the election is certified. These audits are conducted in full view of the public, and often involve, including this year, we involved we involved poll watchers in the audit, so they actually helped participate in the audit. These were particularly 2 poll watchers from the Ledge 10 district who came, and that was a very close race. They came and actually helped participate with the audit, which includes a human hand count and comparing that to what the machines had tabulated. We found several discrepancies during that audit. They were all because of the human hand count, because when you're counting a ballot that has 30 to 40 races on it, and you have sometimes 3 people, a caller, and 2 markers, it's pretty rare when you get all 3 humans to agree on what was there. But as you go back and recount with different teams, you find that the system counted exactly, and that the humans did not. I'm not saying we should never use humans. I'm not saying that's a horrible thing. I love the concept of voting in person. It's an exciting, fun, patriotic experience, which is great, and we will always provide that, offer that service to our voters. The delays, as far as any delays, we're here, the entire elections team was here up until midnight last night. We left around midnight last night performing our final reconciliation for the election. State law did not require us to update the website that was referred to by Ms. Pennington. We'll update that today, so that it has a final notification, but that was not in any part due to a delay or a use of equipment. That was simply, it wasn't required by law. We were focused on what was required by law until last night, and we'll update that website today.
Thank you. Commissioners, on the first 4 items, on our consent items, do either of you have any questions? Hearing none, I'll continue on with item number 5, which is a request for approval of the new business licenses. Item 6 is a request for approval of new beer licenses. Item 7, request for approval of the Target Master Settlement Agreement with the opioid litigation case. Item 8 is a request for the approval of a contract by between Weber County and American Chariot Racing Association to hold the 2025 World Chariot Races at the Golden Spike Event Center. Commissioners, we're considering consent items 1 through and including 8. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve consent items F1 through 8.
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Our consent items are approved. The first action item I listed under G is a request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene a public, I think a public hearing is, it's okay. It's a request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting, convene a public hearing of the Board of Canvassers.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. That's unanimous for the record. Item 2 is a Board of Canvassers. It's to certify the results of the 2024 election. Ms. Lauren Schaefer, we sure appreciate what you've done. Thank you so much. I have a quick question just for myself. Ricky, you got a little anxious getting up there, but the first election, the first vote by mail election, if I remember right, didn't happen in a November time period. It happened like in June. It had to do when the library, the voting of the library was on the ballot. That was about 2014, 2013?
Very good memory. Yeah, it was in 2013. What happened was the library director said, we need funds and we need them now because our buildings are failing. We don't have time to wait for an election to get these funds. We can't wait until November. And the commissioner said, we don't want a special election because turnout is horrible in special elections, 10%. And they said, we want more turnout. So what happened is...
How much was the percent again?
Normally it's 10%.
Okay.
For special elections for in-person turnout. And so they talked together, they talked with me and our elections team, and we said, well, if you want to try vote by mail, it usually doubles turnout in situations like this. Library gets what they want. They get a yes or a no vote from the citizens. The commission gets what they want by having more citizens involved, and that's when we started. Turnout for that election was about 35%.
Interesting. So in 2012 would have been a presidential election. Do you by chance remember that would have been not by mail? What was the percentage on that presidential? We get the highest turnouts during presidential elections, right?
Yeah. Yes. I want to say that turnout in 2012 was approximately 82%, something like that.
Wow. That's interesting. Thank you. From the elections team back there, if you guys can get on some kind of a device and find out where we were on, if you can figure that out, I wouldn't mind hearing that exactly. That's just interesting. Thank you. All right, Lauren, go ahead, please. And Ricky, please feel free to interject where you need to, but we sure trust Lauren.
He will. Can I take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody that helped us? The elections office wrote a big thank you note to the county, if I can. So we first want to say thank you to all the departments who stepped up and helped us when we put out our SOS, to all the people who did Dropbox collection, to the departments who help us set up, take down, secure, and prep for this election, which most importantly includes property management, the attorney's office, Gabby at Golden Spike, and the sheriff's department. We also want to thank each and every member of the clerk auditor's office. They each stepped up and supported us through this, and we noticed and appreciated it. We'd like to thank all of our seasonal and poll workers who we couldn't do this job without. And lastly, from me and Ricky to the 4 people sitting behind me, A thank you to each member of our team who spent the last 5 weeks dedicating their lives and taking 3 days off total to get this done. We couldn't do this without you. And to everybody I forgot, I'm sure I forgot a lot of people. A lot of people helped us, but we appreciate it. So I'm going to get into 8 million statistics for you. I'm required by law to read out a stat sheet.
Sorry, we don't have time to go through all 8 million.
Through 8 million, I know. I'll rush it. And then I'll go through the results. So we had a total of 134,799 active registered voters this election, with an 85% turnout overall. We had 114,612 ballots counted and only 1,239 ballots rejected. A lot of ballots were undeliverable, which is what will be some of that difference, or ballots that were not returned by voters, but we only rejected 1,239. Of the provisional ballots we received, 3,506 were cast. 3,383, which is 96.5%, were counted. Only 3.5% were not counted, and it was due to 10 people having already voted, 43 people having insufficient ID, 2 people did not sign their provisional ballot, 41 people did not complete their form, and 27 others were miscellaneous registration issues that we couldn't reconcile. Our by-mail ballot summary, we mailed 138,189 ballots out, but if my dog eats my ballot and I call 3 times, you get 3 different ballots that all have a separate secure number on them, so they wouldn't be able to vote 3 times, but we mail more typically than we have active registered voters. We had 20,897 ballots not returned, which is about 15%. And then we had 2,680 undeliverable ballots, which puts us just under 2%. The last stat sheet I have to go through is why we did not count those 1,239 ballots. We had 147 ballots returned past the deadline, 886 ballots where their signature did not match the record, 131 ballots where they were returned without a signature, 9 ballots that were returned with, 9 envelopes that were returned with no ballot, 16 ballots where someone signed on behalf of someone else, and then 68 ballots that were returned with no envelope, so I couldn't track who those ballots actually belonged to. And then I have our results. How do you guys want me to do it? Do you want me to read the winner of each race or the number of ballots with each race? It's kind of up to you.
Commissioners, do you have a preference?
You.
Either one.
I'll just run through the winners then, if that's
Thank you.
easier.
She likes.
So within Weber County, for President of the United States, Donald Trump won. For U.S. Senate, it was John Curtis. For U.S. House District 1, Blake Moore. For Governor and Lieutenant Governor, Spencer Cox. Attorney General, Derek Brown. For State Auditor, Tina Cannon. For State Treasurer, Marlo M. Oaks. For Utah Senate District 3, John Johnson. For Utah Senate District 4, Cal Musselman. For Utah House District 6, Matthew H. Gwynn. For Utah House District 7, Ryan Wilcox. For Utah House District 8, Jason B. Kyle. For Utah House District 9, Jake Sawyer. For Utah House District 10, Jill Coford. For Utah House District 11, Katie Hall. For Utah
Katie
House...
Hall, not Call.
Yeah, Katie Hall.
Thank you.
Sorry. For Utah House District 12, Mike Schultz. For State Board of Education District 3, Rod Hall. For County Commission Seat C, Jim Harvey. For County Assessor, John Ulibarri. For County Recorder Surveyor, I'm going to butcher his last name, Raheem Zedigan?
Zodigan.
Oh, man. For County Treasurer, Linnell Jensen. For Ogden School Board District 1, Arlene Anderson. For Ogden School Board District 3, Jennifer R. Zundel. For Ogden School Board District 5, John D. Peterson. For Ogden School Board District 6, Jennifer Genta. For Ogden School Board District 4, Paul J. Whittison. For Weber School Board District 5, Douglas R. Hurst. For Weber School Board District 7, Weil J. Williams. And then for judges, it was whether or not they were retained. So for Matthew B. Durant, yes, he was retained. Ryan D. Tenney, yes. Joseph M. Bean, yes. Ronald G. Russell, yes. Christina Patricia Ortega, yes. Craig Hall, yes. Michael Dario Dorita, yes. Tasha Williams, yes. Paul H. Olds, yes. And then Trent D. Nelson, yes. Constitutional Amendment B passed with 4. Or like 4 was the higher one, not against. Constitutional Amendment C passed. And then Ballot Proposition 19, which is the ramp tax, passed. And finally, our last item on our ballot, which was Ogden Valley City, passed. They chose a 6-member council form, and they chose to run by district. And that is our results.
Thank you very much. Just to add by way of explanation for those who may be listening at another time, everyone had a chance to vote for 4 different constitutional amendments, A, B, C, and D on their ballot, but because of litigation, A and D were not counted or weren't processed. So the results of B and C are the only ones that you mentioned, which is correct. I also want to tell you just a couple of things before we hear any more of this too that I found interesting. Unfortunately, one of my neighbors in my cul-de-sac passed away earlier this year. She did not get a ballot. She'd been voting all her whole life, very proud. But she didn't get a ballot. I thought that was interesting. Your office took care of that before it had to take care of itself. And I found that out not because I raid her mailbox, but because her daughter's a very close friend of mine, and she also found that to be complimentary. She's very critical of elections, and she found that to be complimentary, that she didn't even have a chance to fill out her mom's ballot. Not that she would have, but it just didn't happen. The opportunity was taken away. So kudos to your thing. Also, I used a Sharpie to fill out my ballot. And when I turned it over, well, this is personally, when I turned it over, I noticed that the ink had bled through to the back side. Being worried about spoiling my own ballot, I went in and to your office when it was open a couple weeks before, and the process was once again reassuring. It was exact, it was timely, and I just, that personal experience that I had was great. My ballot was destroyed, the one that I spoiled, and a new barcode, a ballot and barcode was given that I could use what the instructions said, black or blue ink, but not a Sharpie, which was ink, but it's quite a Sharpie anyway. So I thought I would compliment you on that as well too. I just, I've said many times in this, I've not had the chance. I like participating in the voting audits, but I won't do it during when I'm up. That's just part of the code I follow. I like being a part of those audits, and I don't know how the process of elections go in other counties in this state or in other states in this country, but I know about how the process works in Weber County. I love audits. I don't fear audits. I like them because a good audit tells you where you have holes. And I want to tell you from the audit perspective, from the business perspective, I really compliment the both of you and your team for just the way that you process under the law, under just the rules of elections as they stand today. You guys you and your team do a phenomenal job. And aside from when the fever of elections are coming up, I love that when we're away from that, you're always thinking about what would be best, not just for the voter, but those who may want to come in and see. And I've loved the many open houses you've held to familiarize others who, whether they're a candidate or whether they're not a candidate, to familiarize yourself with the process. I did hear from several people who were involved in the SOS team that they said, wow, I only got to do this portion of the ballot process. And then they were turned over to another person who only got to do this portion of the ballot process. And then they were turned over so that the security of the ballot was just as tight as it could be. And to have all that done and posted, I will tell you, Jennifer, with your thing too, the timeliness, and I think it'll be addressed. I was one of those ones on pins and needles that night at 8 o'clock. But that wasn't because of this team. The lieutenant governor had decided that we would wait to post results. At least this was the word that I got. We would wait to post results until all counties people who were in line had a chance to vote. And when the last person in line for the longest county, which happened to be Utah County again, got done, that's why it took so long to get the results, because in fairness to the process, we had to hold to post until the people in Utah County who waited more than 2 hours in line after they were in the doors at 8 o'clock to cast their ballot. And so that's the reason it's kind of the weakest link, and that's where it was exposed that I understood this year. But I know we were there, we were prepared, we were ready, as were the other 27 counties, except for the one. I mean, we did a wonderful job, and I just wanted to compliment you and thank you before we move into the next portion of this. Commissioner Bolos, Commissioner Froer, any comments or questions before I turn the time over to the others?
I don't have any.
I would just echo some of your comments that, there's always been, over the last few years, questions about security and transparency with elections. And I can say without doubt that I know here in Weber County, we happen to have the best election officials, and it is because of our security and transparency, and for Lauren and Ricky for the job they do. So I have no questions in terms of the outcome of what we were just presented with. Thank you.
Thank you. With that then, commissioners, if there is nothing more on the presentation, Mr. Hatch, go ahead please, sir.
I do have just a few comments that I would want to share, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. Just to indicate, I just want to share some of the complexities of election administration. I'll just tell you some unusual things that happen pretty much every time, but that happen during this election. Quite often we receive envelopes from voters that have 2 ballots in them. Generally, it's an older couple who wants to save on postage. So they put 2 ballots in one envelope. We receive envelopes back that have no ballots in them. We receive ballots that don't have envelopes. We call those naked ballots.
What?
Naked ballots, because they're not covered. We receive ballots from, on behalf of other counties and even states that come in our drop boxes. We've received a ballot from another county that was in a Weber County envelope. We also receive envelopes on behalf of other counties and other states that are placed in our drop boxes. Voters often, instead of marking the oval, filling in the oval, they'll put a check mark or an X or a line, or they'll write yes or no in each oval. Some voters have actually circled the name of the candidate instead of filling in the oval. Some voters will vote for the candidate and then write that candidate's name in the write-in section as well. Unusual write-ins are Post Malone, Jesus, anyone else, nobody, and other interesting comments written in the write-in section. None of them had to write in Lucifer on this ballot because Lucifer was on the ballot as a legitimate, met the legal requirements to have Lucifer just in case every love. And there will be legislation. I'll talk at the Capitol tomorrow about legislation that will help clarify and make that process
And not allow Lucifer to ever run again?
As long as that's not his legal name, that's correct. Many voters called us and said, is this a legitimate ballot, because of what was on the ballot. So it did cause problems for voters. We had some voters that would cut off the timing marks on the outside of the ballot, which made it impossible for the machines to read, which then would require literally a team of 10 people, about an hour's worth of work to identify the precinct that ballot belonged to, and then recreate the ballot.
Yet it still was counted.
Yes.
A lot of extra labor, taxpayer money, okay?
At the vote center, we had a voter who fainted. We had a voter who was blown over by a gust of wind and had to have paramedics come. We had a voter who had a seizure while waiting in line. Each of these voters were allowed to vote eventually. We had 2 voters that checked in and then didn't turn in their ballot. We call those fleeing voters. We had a blind couple who literally came into the vote center by themselves, voted, found the place to vote, voted independently, objectively, with no help, and then left dropped their ballots off in the drop box and left the vote center completely unassisted. We had lines at our vote center. 91% of voters who voted in Weber County did not wait in a single line. 9% did. They came and voted in person, and at some points of the evening, the lines got pretty long. Every voter we talked to said, "This is great. This is like a party." One voter I talked to yesterday said, I felt it was like an adventure. A lot of them brought guests, which made the lines and the congestion even longer because they wanted their people to experience that. There was a bells that we had, hand-ringing bells for people who voted for the first time. And so they would ring the bell and everyone would cheer. They did that over 1,000 times at the vote center on election day, throughout the day. It really was a party atmosphere. I mentioned that last night we were here until midnight. We complete what I call a grand reconciliation. So we have multiple systems that we look at. One system tracks who voted, the voter that is receiving credit for having submitted a ballot. Then there's another system that tracks what the ballot said, what the results are. Those systems never talk to each other. They shouldn't, because it has to be a secret ballot by the state constitution. So those are separate, but we have to make sure that the voters who got credit is the exact same number as the ballots that are actually counted. Well, I'll let you in on a secret. That's almost never, ever the case. They almost never match. And the reason why, at least in our case, out of 114,612 ballots that were scanned, we had 114,614 voters that we said had voted. So where did those 2 go? They were the fleeing voters who checked in person and for whatever reason didn't turn in their ballot to be counted. So that's where that discrepancy came from. It takes a long time to complete that grand reconciliation because you're looking at so many different reports from so many systems, and we have double and triple check, cross-report checking to make sure that we haven't missed a ballot somewhere or missed a voter history. I spent the day yesterday calling voters who appeared to have attempted to vote twice. Each time I'd call with them, I'd say, "Hey, it looks like you checked and voted in person, but we also received a by-mail ballot from you. Tell me what's up." In every instance, when I talked to the voter, there was a distinctive, unique story that made sense once you heard the reason why. But we do a lot of checks. Lauren talked about the help that we received across the county, and it was tremendous. We really appreciate all of the county staff, employees, leaders, elected officials, including the commissioners who helped. Our seasonal help team was fantastic. They worked long hours. They would often stay late without being asked to help. Sometimes they would help vacuum because you process 100,000 ballots, you're going to have ballot dust and scraps of paper all over.
But no chads.
No chads, that's right.
That's important.
And then the elections team itself worked virtually nonstop for 30 days, and not just 2 hours a day. It was often 10 to 15, sometimes 18 hours a day that they worked, including last night up until midnight when the entire team stayed, even though some of the team members didn't have access to the reports that we were looking at and that we were trying to reconcile, but they stayed to support the rest of the team. That's the culture that our elections director, Lauren, has instilled, and that's the integrity of the team members that we have. So I really want to commend them and thank them and recognize their efforts in what was an extremely difficult, challenging election. They're going to go away for a few days and try to recover They've certainly earned enough comp time to be able to do that. But I appreciate their selflessness and their service.
Please
and their-
come back, though. Please come back.
But I appreciate their professionalism, their selflessness, and their sacrifice, all to make sure that the voters' will is heard and that the elections are secure and accurate. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Great. Comments or questions before we move to the next item?
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
With that, then, I'll request a motion to adjourn our Public Board of Canvassers and reconvene a public hearing.
Meeting.
Commissioners, before you adjourn,
Should there be a...
if you could make a motion, you can do it two ways. You can recite everything by memory of what Lauren just said as far as the results, or you could just make a motion to declare, accept, and certify the results as read by Lauren.
Very good. So we need to, thank you, before we do the, great. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't think we want to repeat every.
You ready for that motion?
One line I like, but there's, go ahead.
Make a motion to declare, accept, and certify the results as Ms. Schaefer presented them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'm going to make this a roll call vote, just to be clear. Mr. Brandt, go ahead with that.
Okay. Roll call vote to declare, accept, and certify the results of the 2024 general election. Commissioner Frohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, we're already on top of it.
Can I
Thank
have
you.
someone sign a signature sheet for me so I can get it to the state?
Yeah, here we go. Because Utah County will probably get theirs done by 11 o'clock tonight, but we want to be a little more. Yeah.
and Mr. Chair, our team informed me that voter turnout in the 2012 presidential election was 70%.
70%. Interesting. So great. If you'll give that over to Mr. Hatch, please. There's 2 copies for you. That's good. With that, Commissioners, I'll request a motion to adjourn the Board of Canvassers and reconvene the public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our action items is action item number 4. It's a discussion and/or action to request to abate taxes for the difference of what was paid owing, put back on the Greenbelt, and abate rollbacks taxes for 2020 through and including 2024. The owner is Dixie Bunot. The parcels are listed on the agenda. All of them are 10-020- and the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 19, 27, 30, 31, and 32. Ms. Kimber, we heard this last week. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, or just to give us the update on that, if you would, please?
We talked about it last week, all of it that we discussed. I don't have any updates, just the information we provided last week, where the Tax Review Committee recommended abating $79,908.46, leaving a balance of $64,830.93. And then Dixie got up and talked to you what she requested.
Great.
So,
Commissioners, we've had a chance to make some discussions and hear. I'm interested in comments. Commissioner Bolos, I'd like to start with you, and then I'll go to Commissioner Frohr after that.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time that we had to research this a little bit more, and I just want to state that the recommendation from the committee is always the basis where I start when I'm making a decision like this, and so I appreciate the work done there. Over the years that it was classified incorrectly, that tax burden was redistributed among other taxpayers, and so to the point of whether or not we tax someone incorrectly, I think part of that conversation has to be that we, through this error, have redistributed that tax in an incorrect way, and the number of years that it goes back, and the number of notices that were sent and were not responded to is a big factor for me. And so I would like to go with the committee recommendation. That's where I am.
Okay, great. Commissioner Frohr.
So just a couple of points. I think I asked these, but I want to be make sure we're clarified on this. Was this land in production the entire time?
It was in production the entire time.
So, this is a tough one, and I'm assuming that the $64,830.93 is all penalties. Is that correct?
No, that's actually, there is some penalties and interest, I think, included into it. There's some penalty charges that show on there. Did you guys get the
got the
kind of shows
spreadsheet
like
here.
on 10, 20, and 1, the penalty charge for 2023 was $48.78. For 2022, it's $47.88.
Okay,
For 2021, it's $12.34.
So they were minor, so this would be just the rollback tax?
This is actually the tax charged based on the market value being at market and not
Right.
at the production rate.
Versus
So,
rollback.
Yeah, so like the values were $325,200 for just like 10, 20, and 1. And so taxable value is $325,200. So it's not the production rate on the taxables. They're taxed at 100% of the market value.
Got it. Well, this is somewhat of a difficult decision for me. I've said this before. Statutes put in place, and there's a thing called the letter of the law, and there's also a part that talks about equity and basically what a taxpayer should or should not do in terms of receiving any type of credit based upon state law, basically intent versus reality of the law. It appears that the property owner abided by the intent, which was production, but did not abide by the statute that with the notifications, etc. So where do you draw the line in terms of intent versus reality? I feel that obviously that the owner is in default from the provisions of following the true intent of the law, which was to make sure that the county knew and was informed of the production and return those notices that were never returned. But at the same time, I think that the $64,830 may be a little severe for this case. So I would not be opposed to lowering that amount to some extent, but not the entire amount, in my opinion, should be abated. So that's my comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, that leaves... You've both made some great points. And just so that I'm clear, and I don't know that it matters, but of the parcels that are listed there, some of them still show ownership. At least this is what I've got.
Yeah, some of them are just in Dixie's name, and some of them are in Owen and Dixie's.
So some of them have been changed, and some of them have not been changed.
Correct.
I imagine, was this form given, or this piece of paper, did the tax review committee see this as well?
Yes. They didn't see the adjustments that was added for you guys on what we recommended.
On the
So,
top?
The adjustment showing that. They saw everything that you see other than where I summed up the total, what we recommended to abate.
Total on first page.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to, I feel torn in half on this one. There's both right answers on both sides. And so, I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Bolos, with regards to there. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Frohr, and I've been going down the line I did when I remember walking out of here too, that it shouldn't be 100% forgiven. There should be some measure, some portion to that, from something all the way up to the full amount. So with that, that's where I am, and this is one of those meetings that I'm gonna ask to entertain a motion and see what happens. I think at this point I'm not inclined, but we'll just see how the vote goes. That's how it'll have to be. So I'll ask the Board of Commissioners, whichever one would like to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make a motion. I have a question before I make that motion, though.
Please.
So what was the process, or I guess maybe you can't answer this, but the committee recommended, and I fully believe we should understand and support the work of the committees for their recommendation to abate $79,000. Do you know what process? Or
What we discussed is they ended up asking Dixie. She was dealing with a family situation where she was taking care of her mother-in-law who passed, and so she asked when her mother-in-law passed, and I believe it was May of 2019.
July 12th, 2020.
July 12th of 2020. Sorry, I apologize. And so they says that we'll abate 20 and 21 to give the time to deal with the suffering that she dealt with. And so we abated what happened in 20 and 21 and said we left 22, 23, and 24.
Got it.
So they abated 20 and 21. That's what represents the 79,908, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Otherwise, this would have been, holy cow, 100 and something.
140, yeah, almost 145,000.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
So, in the effort to recognize that there's no easy answer to this, I still think the $64,830 is a little severe in this particular case. So I'm going to make a motion that we reduce the amount of owed taxes to 50% of that amount, which would be $32,415.40, whatever that works out to be. On the principle, basically on the principle that the property was in production, at the same time recognizing that the property owner had the obligation under state law that she did not complete, which is recognition of the emails, letters that were sent. So that's my motion. We'll see where it goes.
So you say 32, 415, and 46?
50% of the recommended amount.
Do you have a second? I will second that motion. Any comments?
No.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. I'm going to place this motion for vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Bishop Bolos?
Nay.
And aye. Motion carries at 32, 415, and 46. Next item on our agenda.
Excuse me, Dixie would like to take just a brief moment if she could.
Please go ahead, Dixie.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't want you to misunderstand, this is not my comfort zone.
Right.
The only other thing that wasn't discussed is my misunderstanding that I could reapply for Greenbelt before the taxes were paid, and I didn't have ability to pay the taxes. So that's why I didn't re-put it back into Greenbelt, was that misunderstanding. I just wanted to tell you, after I left here last time, I appreciate that I was given the direction to talk to John Ulibarri. When I talked to him, instead of him giving me the hard line of, you've missed the deadline, how are you going to pay for it? He listened to me and explained about going before the tax review committee and before you guys. He then brought in Dee Dee to coordinate everything. So I wanted to say thanks for the time. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for taking the mottos that's on the wall, putting it all together and boiling it down to the decision that you've made today.
Thank you, Dixie.
I'll get working on that.
Thank you very much. Item number 5 is a request for approval of the resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing a member of the Weber State Recreation, Arts, Museum, and Parks, or the RAMP Committee. Ms. Shelley Hallisey, this is in your wheelhouse. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Commissioners. I came before you about a month ago with 4 individuals. Since that time, we've had one that has been elected as a council member in a city, which makes her not qualified to serve on the RAMP board. So since that time, we have gone through some of the applications we already had on hand. We felt like we were still in that window that we could use one of those that we already have. And I come before asking if we can add, if you will approve, adding Mary Jo Boylan to the Arts and Museums Committee. Her appointment would begin today and end on September 30th of 2027. Do you have any questions?
Questions, Commissioners? Resolution number, I think Commissioner Bolish, you're prepared with
I'll
that.
make a motion to approve Resolution 48-2024, appointing Mary Jo Boylan to the RAMP committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Resolution 48-2024. Go ahead, Mr. Brandt.
Roll call vote for Resolution 48-2024. Commissioner Faur?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is a request for approval of a resolution, County Commissioners appointing trustees to the West Warren Park Board.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Ms. Stacy Skeen, thank you.
I received notice from the West Warren Park District that they had 3 terms that were expiring for their board members. I posted accordance to state statute, and I received 5 applications that you have before you. 2 of the applications are currently serving, and they would like to be reappointed. I'm just asking for your approval on 3 of the members.
Comments, questions, or nominations or approvals? I'll entertain either one of you. Go ahead.
I have a question, Stacy. Was there a recommendation by the board for that 3rd member?
No. They were requesting that the 2 be reappointed, but yeah.
Right.
Commissioner Faur.
Happy to make a motion whenever you're ready.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move that we reappoint the 2 members that have served on there, which would be Chris Clem and Jeremy Jacob. Is that correct, Stacy?
Correct. Yep.
And that the 3rd member be one of the application, Riley Skinner would be my recommendation.
Is there a second?
Well, is that a motion to approve Resolution 49-2024?
Yes, that'd be.
Second.
So
Took the words out of my mouth.
So 49-2024, Mr. Clem, Mr. Jacobs, and Mr. Skinner. Is that correct?
Correct, that'd
Great.
be correct.
Second.
Very good. Great. With that, I'll place that motion with Mr. Brandt. Go ahead for roll call, please.
Roll call vote for Resolution 49-2024. Commissioner Faur?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye, motion carries. Do we need to do a lottery on this one for terms or no?
No, we do on Ben Lomond Cemetery.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to Resolution 50-2024, Commissioners. This is item 7 on our agenda is a request for approval of a resolution, County Commissioners, Weber County, appointing trustees to the board of Ben Lomond Cemetery District. Ms. Skeen, go ahead, please.
So I was never notified by the district that their terms had expired, but upon updating my district tracking list, I contacted one of the board members to let him know that they had expired and that I would be noticing this. And I received 5 applications for the 3 positions that have all expired. You have 3 of the currently serving members included in those 5 applications that are all asking to be reappointed, plus 2 new applications. Once you choose your 3, then I'll put their names in here, and then you can draw by lot to see who will fill the 4-year term, and then the other 2 members would fill the 6-year term, so that they're staggering once again. So.
Very good. Commissioners, do you have any recommendations for this appointment for this Ben Lomond Cemetery District?
I've got a recommendation to reappoint those who have been serving, so I will make that motion to approve Resolution 50-2024, appointing Leonard Call, Kevin Bailey, and David Gordon to the to the Ben Lomond Cemetery District.
Heard, and is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll place that for a roll call vote.
Roll call vote for Resolution 50-2024. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye, motion carries. Now, Commissioners, we're going to put those 3 names in a lottery. This will be to see when their terms expire. So this is Commissioner Bolos, would you mind doing that for us?
Picked one, that would be the 4-year, and then the other 2
Would be the 2-year.
So let me just, again, the one that we pick will be for the 4-year term. The other 2 will be on a 2-year term.
2 or 6? 6.
6-year. So let me restate. The one we pick will be a 4-year term. The other 2 will be a 6-year term.
Yeah.
How about 8? Can we go to 8 or 10?
This is the 4-year term. David Gordon.
David Gordon on a 4-year term. The other 2, Kevin Bailey and Leonard Call, will be a 6-year term. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Does that complete item 7 off our agenda?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Skeen, for, one of the things that, you do so good. All the districts and things that are associated with what we as commissioners do, Stacy handles and does that very well, very well. She's the point person of the county for that, and we're grateful for your service. Item number 8 on our agenda is a request for approval of a resolution. This would be 51-2024. Resolution of the County Commissioners establishing its desire to refrain from expanding any Weber County sewer ownership or responsibility west of the Weber River. Ms. Stephanie Russell, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a proposed resolution to establish a desire to refrain from expanding any of West Weber County's sewer ownership or responsibilities. Weber County is currently providing limited retail sewer collection services to portions of the unincorporated western Weber County. The West Weber corridor is expanding significantly, and there are some other opportunities for other entities to take on the responsibility of providing conveyance as well as treatment of wastewater for any new developments west of the river. The county has spoken with Little Mountain Service Area as well as Central Weber Sewer to have discussions on not being part of the expansion as it relates to owning and operating sewer lines in the West Weber corridor. There's other entities that are capable of doing that. This resolution would ensure that moving forward we have the right size infrastructure in that West Weber corridor, as well as consolidating services so that we're not having a situation where there's a significant amount of districts handling one operation, whereas we're looking at making sure that the development projects are moving forward, but in a way that is conducive to future development and smart growth practices.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Ms. Russell? I'll go to you, Commissioner Farrar, in as much as this is in your portfolio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an item that's been discussed over the past year or so. As we know, Central Weber is the provider of the treatment for the major share of our county. And the Weber County in the past has taken on the duties of transmission lines in some of the outlying areas. And because of the proposed and potential growth out west, would think that it was a good idea to let Little Mountain Service Area, who has control of the pond out there, the current pond that will be under renovation here in the next year or so for our sewage treatment, take on the responsibility or potential responsibility of sewer lines and basically allow the county to remove itself from that jurisdiction and responsibility of maintaining and servicing sewer lines. We think that an independent board, very similar to what Central Weber does, is probably the best option for that. What this resolution does is makes it clear to Central Weber that they should establish some type of working relationship with Little Mountain Service Area for that portion of the county and not Weber County. My understanding is that they'll be going before, LMSA will be going before the Central Weber Board in January, the first part of the year, and come up with some type of interlocal agreement that establishes those lines that gives us the ability for the future to offer that service to developers, to the inland port area without obligating resources of Weber County. So, to me, it's the step forward and makes a very clean division on responsibilities between treatment and transmission. With that, I'm happy to move approval of Resolution 51, I believe, 2024, Weber County establishing a desire to refrain from expanding any of the Weber County sewer ownership or responsibility west of the Weber River.
I'll hear that as a motion.
Second.
Any comment?
No comment.
Without any comment, I'll place that to Mr. Brandt.
Roll call vote for Resolution 51-2024. Commissioner Faur.
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos.
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is a request for approval of the contract by and between Weber County and Scales Unlimited, Inc. for the installation of the main inbound and outbound scales at the Weber County Transfer Station. Mr. William George Ross, go ahead.
Well, as you know, the time has come for us to replace those scales that everybody's been going across for a lot of years there at the transfer station. This replacement, we're changing them from right now currently our in-ground scales to above-ground scales, which will also allow us opportunities to do preventive maintenance and things on those scales for the longevity of them. But we worked with the purchasing agent and went through the competitive bid process to award this contract to do this work, and Scales Unlimited were the ones chosen through that process, and so this is a contract for them to perform that work.
Great. Questions, commissioners?
None.
Turn to you, Commissioner Faur. Motion.
Yeah, thank you. Just another needed piece of infrastructure we need for the transfer station to keep it up to date and serve the public.
Absolutely.
And I'm just very proud of the workers we have at the transfer station and how they take their job serious. I hear nothing but good comments back from members of the public that visit that facility. In case you haven't been out there, I suggest boots on the ground. But with that, Mr. Chair, I'd move approval of the contract by and between Weber County and Scales Unlimited, Inc. for the installation of the main inbound and outbound scales at the Weber County Transfer Station.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Item H, Commissioners, is a public hearing again. It's a request for, number 1 is a request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now go on to a public hearing to discuss and/or action on the ordinance to vacate a portion of Summit Pass Road, located approximately 8590 Summit Pass Road, Eden. And the presenter is Tammy Adelot. Tammy, go ahead, please.
Morning, Commissioners. This is a request from the applicant to vacate a portion of Summit Pass Road, specifically the furthermost extent of approximately 335 feet. Just to be clear, we don't have any public, this is a portion of Summit Pass Road that has no public improvements or utilities. The applicant would, through the subdivision process, at some point like to slightly realign that roadway to better work with the topography up there. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions, commissioners?
None?
None.
I have. With the vacation of Summit Pass Road in that area, does this change where we have to provide service for snow removal?
I believe it does, yes.
Does that mean we will not have to provide service?
Going forward, any future dedication of the extension of that road will be private.
Very good. Very good. Okay. I've got no questions. Any, because there's no comments, I'll entertain any public that would like to speak to Summit Pass Road. Up to 3 minutes. None in the chamber, none online. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene a public meeting.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now it's time to take action on that same discussion. On that portion again, it's 8590 Summit Pass Road.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that for vote. Mr. Brandt?
Roll call vote for ordinance 2024-22. Commissioner Faur.
Aye.
Commissioner Bolos.
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item I, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Bolos?
I don't have any right now.
None for me, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate that. I just want to say thank you. That other item on the other side of the paper was difficult for me, and I was a lot softer than the two of you. So I appreciate the compromise there. That just shows you what live debate does. We don't do that in advance on most of these items, so it shows you where we are. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for item J.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.